Moving into the 5 stages of grief, and if we apply your story, some of the words you've already mentioned, how would you break down, first of all, what are those 5 stages and how would you apply them to your story?
So I look at the 5 stages from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. The 5 stages of grief, the first one is denial, the second one is anger and depression and bargaining and acceptance. Denial is denial and shock, because you just can't believe that things have happened to you, or a loss of a loved one, or sudden death, or things like that have happened. I stayed in denial for maybe about 7 to 8 months. Then I went into anger, huge anger, and depression, and anger and depression were very much mixed in together. So you were like angry at yourself and you were depressed with what had happened, but you were angry at the whole world and it was everyone else's fault. And then I got into bargaining, where I'm like totally dedicating my life, and the bargaining part was I'm dedicating my life to helping people with suicidal thoughts and creating greater with this. And I stayed in that bargaining place for probably about 7 years. And it was probably just last year that I came to the acceptance.
Do you see acceptance as being forgiveness?
Acceptance is that you come to that place of, okay, however this outcome has been, I'm going to accept it for me, and I'm going to move forward. And so with that acceptance, however this looks for you, if it's loss, it's the acceptance of the person's not physically there anymore, but the memories still go on. And people can stay in grief for a very long time. So that's, and nobody undermines anyone's grief or in their loss, because it's terrible when you lose somebody and you lose parts of yourself. But do know that there is ways of getting through that. And if you want to take that first step of coming out of denial, please contact me. Please talk to people.
What is it you currently do now? How have you used your story to help others?
Like I said, I do suicide intervention, postvention and prevention. I do hands-on energy healing, which
tell us more about that, because that's a lot of people kind of view that as a wee bit airy-fairy. What does that mean to somebody who is having suicidal thoughts? What is it? What can that really impact?
So there's 2 ways of doing this. There's a talk therapy, because I know personally myself with suicidal thoughts, I don't want anyone touching me. Don't come close to me, don't touch me, don't get weird, don't be anything, just talk. And talk to me. Don't talk about what it is, just talk to me. So I have a certain way that I talk with people where it's questioning. So it's asking certain questions that gets people to open up, to allow themselves to let go of things. And
people could be at various stages of the 5 stages of grief when you're talking to them, or they're going to be at that anger depression stage?
They can be anywhere in their lives with these particular things, and it's just getting to that point of talking about where they are, what's happening for them. Are they even willing or choosing to look at grief? Because some people are just like, no, I'm good. And the other one is hands-on, which is a 32-point acupressure points on your head. And some people go to sleep, some people talk the whole way through it, and it's just very relaxing. I just wanted to create something different for people, because I know what I went through, and I just wanted to do something that could help others, that if I could move through my stages and through what I do and through what someone helped me get through, I just wanted to be that person for other people.
So can those stages of grief all happen at the same time, or do they tend to be spaced out over a particular time frame?
No, they can happen at any time, and then you can go backwards and forwards. You can be depressed, and you can come to some sort of acceptance, and then you go, no, I'm really angry about that.
How do you know from that acceptance stage? If you talk about, I have acceptance that I'm going to move forward and put that behind me in terms of up here and here, and well, emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually. How do you know?
You ask yourself a question. The best thing to do is look at a photo. So if you're talking about a loss of a loved one or things like that, you look at a photo. And if you no longer cry anymore and you get a sense of joy and you smile, then you know you've come to acceptance. It is a beautiful space. And I wouldn't be here right now if I hadn't gone through all those things and got to that space of acceptance. And it was a very lonely journey.
And look, I can relate to a little bit of the story, although it's not really around grief, but in terms of my HIV status. When I was diagnosed with HIV in 2001, I went through all of those stages, and I do remember I had done a lot of work in the landmark education space, and I feel as though I went through the denial, anger, depression,
bargaining.
The bargaining very quickly, because I remember coming to the counselling session about a week after, and the counsellor sat down and said, "So how are you feeling?" And I kind of said, "Well, I've forgiven the person who gave it to me. Don't know, don't care. I'm responsible for my life, yada, yada, yada." And they're like, "Whoa, you're like 6 months down the track from where people usually are." And I was like, "Well, that's great. However, when I asked the question about forgiveness, and I called it forgiveness, not necessarily acceptance. Mm-hmm. The acceptance or the forgiveness of myself took a good 3 years post that, and what that was 2001. So that was 19 years ago, now it's I'm in some respects I'm really glad that happened for me in my life, because it did have me check in with a few things, and to live life a little bit more responsibly. But in understanding the 5 stages of grief, I certainly went through all of those, although my experience is by no means can be compared with losing a loved one, or and I was just talking to a friend of mine, Maggie Eyre, this morning, and we were having a conversation around the impact that losing a loved one can have on yourself. Yeah. It's like people always, it's a very selfish thing to do, but we don't know what's going on inside people's heads. But at the same time, it's if we think about the impact that they had on our lives, let alone the impact they had on their loved ones, their husbands, their children, it's so sad. It's just so sad.
Yes, but when you're in that stage of suicidal thoughts and things like that, you're only thinking of you. There's no one else outside of you that you think of. There are parts where you have the life side of you, where it really does go click. Oh, okay, I need to talk to someone. That's when someone might ring up on the Lifeline phone, and they start to talk, and that's their life side that's speaking. So when that life side is speaking, you connect in with the life side, and you go through a process of questioning with the person. It's not the person ringing out going, I'm just going to end it all right now. We have had calls, many calls like that. It's a very specialised area to take that on and listen to that story. And so people ask me how I deal with it. I'm going to answer this. I'm going to tell you, when someone tells me a story about suicide and their story about suicide, it's not about me. The Katrina who you see right now changes. I become another person, and it doesn't mean that I physically change. It just means that I put on that particular space and I become that person for them. I don't walk away with any of their things. I don't walk away and tell everybody. If there's certain things and it's at risk right there and then I need to call for some assistance. If there's anything else that needs to be, like with family and bits and pieces, when you come to the plan for them to continue on, then we definitely contact these people. But otherwise, you're only thinking of you.
If you're thinking of somebody who is at risk, or if you have some intuition that somebody you know is dealing with suicidal thoughts, reach out to the plenty of help that is available out there.
Yes.
And Katrina, they can find you on Facebook and LinkedIn, I know. And your email address, katrina@katrinanorth.com, can find you.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. It's
Thank you.
it takes courage to put yourself out there, and out of your story, hopefully, it can bring some courage to other people watching this video, and to save lives, because it is it's something that we, as New Zealanders, want to be able to help, but we've got to know.
And please know, you are worth it, and there is a tomorrow.